Greetings, my name is Liu, and today we are going to talk about cappy tanking. And we're going to talk about cappy tanking allies. So, for cappy allies, these two are my tanking sword and tanking emblem. So for a tanking captain, you want to stay in battle hardened to have reduced incoming damage, because you're tanking. You don't care about your damage. You care about your decreased damage. So you stay in battle hardened most of the time. As you can see, battle hardened gives you negative 15% incoming melee damage, ranged, and also tactical damage, and that is to your source. That's to the source, damage source. So if I do so right now I'm in battle hardened, as you can see, negative 15%. It actually goes to your source. It says against level 115 enemies, incoming range damage is reduced by 15%. Same thing goes for tactical and melee. So if you have Tome of Defense plus your battle hardened, and then plus your on guard, you will have 30% incoming damage reduction. Now let's talk about the tanking ally sword first. So for my titles, I do use the same for every single tank. Always critical defense plus tactical mitigation. And for my legacies, I have pressing attack and devastating strike critical rating. The reason being, when you critical hit with your pressing attack or devastating blow, you will gain an enemy defeat response, and that enemy defeat response allows you to use routing cry or rallying cry. Routing cry or rallying cry. Defensive armor buff. So whenever you use your sure strike, you will have increased armor value. Increased armor value equals higher physical and higher tactical mitigation. As you can see, my mitigation is not capped for a tank. However, when I'm in a raid, when I'm using my sure strike, my mitigations will be capped. That defensive armor strike will put me at the level I need. My next one is Muster Courage Fear Resist. Now with the extra 50%, your Muster Courage is able to remove fear, wound, poison, disease, but also gives people a 70% fear resistance. If your normal resistance is already about 30% in a tier 1, which is a 28% in a tier 2, plus that 70%, you already have 98% in a tier 2 and 100% fear resist when you are in a tier 1. For runs like Thorog, you can use your Muster Courage and pretty much ensure that nobody gets the fear debuff. For runs like Dogabeth, you can use your Muster Courage, and people who don't know how to pot, people who get killed by those double fears, well, they will have a very unlikely chance to get the double fear. Next one, Captain Area of Effect Healing. So when you're tanking, you're also using heals, a little bit of heal threat. So your AoE heals are Rallying Cry, and that's about it. So it increases your Rallying Cry, it increases your Inspire, and those are the heals you get. It's not that good of a legacy, but if you look at the other legacies, there's really nothing else that are good. For example, you don't need to do damage when you're a tank, so none of these damage legacies are even worth it. This power cost, your cries don't cost power at all. You're not a power hungry class, so why do you need power cost reduction? So none of these legacies are even remotely good. The next one, battle hardened incoming damage. So with this legacy, your battle hardened gives you negative 15% damage rather than negative 5. So this one is a must-have when you're tanking as a captain. Vitality, simply more health. There's no other legacies. There are no other class legacies that are good, so I just put vitality. Battle hardened outgoing heal. That increases the heal on everything, including strength in numbers, words of courage, rallying cry, inspire. All of these heals are increased, so you're able to survive a little bit better by healing yourself and other people just a tiny extra bit more. Now let's go on to the belt. For belt, first of all, I have Shield of Doomsday incoming healing. This is good for runs where you don't want the 20-second Shield of Doomsday. So I have a Swappy right here that gives me extra 10 seconds on the Shield of Doomsday duration. So if you don't need extra incoming heals, then you can just equip your third age Swappy. Let me find it first. There it is. I can equip my third age Swappy, use Shield of Doomsday, and now my Shield of Doomsday is at a 20-second duration. After I use it, I switch back to my tanking emblem. However, in fights like, let me think, the twin Nazguls of Throne is one of them. The twin Nazguls of Throne, Unbroken Ones also from Throne. They have some very heavy incoming heal debuffs. Sometimes you will have 0 incoming heals, so you actually need to use your Shield of Doomsday with the incoming heal modifier to be healed back up, or else you just won't get any healing. Next one, Words of Courage healing. Your heal threat comes from Words of Courage. Sometimes I would put Words of Courage on the healer to mitigate some of the healing threat. Last Stand heal. Last Stand heal is not that great, but I don't see any other things to get. Some viable legacies are Words of Courage morale cost. So now your Words of Courage cost less morale. That's a viable one to have. And another one that's fairly viable is your melee skill healing. Your melee skill healing will now increase the heal on your Inspire. So those two are two optional ones to have. The other ones are all damage. You don't need to do damage when you're in a tanking position, so none of these damage ones even work. And also Valiant Strike is a blue line only skill. You won't have Valiant Strike when you're in tank spec, so this one is absolutely useless. So instead, get Last Stand heal, Words of Courage, morale decrease, or melee skill healing. The next one is vocal skills healing. Your vocal skills are strength in numbers, words of courage, rallying cry. So it's quite nice to have this it's quite nice to have this legacy, so you can boost your heals up a little bit more. Now, Rallying Cry healing. You do use Rallying Cry quite a bit, so that is another one nice to have. Healing critical magnitude. Enough said, more heals. Last spot, there's really nothing else for me to get, so I get Vitality. The other two viable ones I said were melee skill healing and also Words of Purge morale cost decrease. But compared to Vitality, both of them are quite lackluster, so I just grabbed Vitality instead. For relics, I run tanking spec relics like Finesse. For why Finesse, you may ask, is because I want to have a little bit of Finesse in order to use my Grave Wound. Grave Wound, if you don't land the hit, you cannot have the Force Taunt. Vitality, because more sturdiness. And for my emblem, I have the Tactical Healing Rune to heal a little bit more, and I have the Rune of Striking to do a little bit more damage and also get a little bit more critical rating. However, this rune right here can be replaced. You don't need to have this rune. You can have some mitigation runes like, for example, even this avoidance would work. This tier 9 shitty avoidance one. But my recommendation, or even this incoming heal with block, either one of them works. However, my recommendation is for your tanking sword, you can either go damage or you can go simply the White Mountain one, which is a forged relic. To be honest, for cappies, this rune right here is not that good. I would rather have go to the Relic Master, go to Melding, and there is a unique one that you can have. This one increases your block and parry mitigation and also block rating. So that's the oh wait, that's a gem, my bad. We're talking about runes. I think it's the Rune of Courage. Yep, it's the Rune of Courage. If you go to Melding, you can actually find this under the Western Net level 90 runes for relic. The Western Net Rune of Courage, it will increase your mitigation from partials, and that will decrease your damage a little more. This is actually what I want to have for my sword, but I'm a little too lazy and too poor to get it. As you can see, I don't have nearly enough shards. I don't have any of these tier 10 relics. I just don't have any relics at all. So so I cannot get it. But if you have the resources to get this, I strongly recommend the Rune of Courage for your sword. And for my crafted devices, I go critical defense. I just been too lazy. I haven't changed this one out yet. The critical defense and mitigation one is actually better than the might and critical rating, and also physical mastery, because that's a DPS relic. I'm not too sure why that's there. So do not like I said, do not copy my relic 100%, because this Western Device of Battle and also this Vanguard Rune of Striking are not that great, but the rest are okay though. For a cappy tank, you're not doing any damage, so there is absolutely no reason to have max DPS like I do here. I'm not too, like I said, I fucked up. I wasted a lot of my started crystals on this. Is really not that necessary. You're not a Guardian tank, you're not a Warden tank, you're a cappy tank. Warden and Guardians are able to do more damage to have some DPS threat, but for a cappy, you really have no DPS. You don't have any DPS skills or AoE. So for captains, our DPS sword is pretty useless other than to have the legacies. However, for a cappy tank, you do want to have the outgoing healing, the tactical healing rating, so that you can heal a lot more on your healing skills to build both healing threat and also to keep yourself up. For swappies, I have a Shield of Dunedain swappy to increase the duration on my Shield of Dunedain. And for sword swappy, I have a make haste duration. So now whenever I use make haste, I simply equip my one-handed sword. Make sure this is one-handed sword so it doesn't remove the shield when you're using swappies. If you use a two-handed sword as a swappy, it will also remove the shield, and you don't want that. So I equip my one-handed sword swappy to have the make haste duration. Use my make haste, which is now a duration of 45 seconds, and then I equip back my regular tanking sword. That concludes the video for my cappy tank allies.